Hi, it's Penny here, and today we're going to be putting together my TBR for the month of March. Now, I do have a little stack of books that I'm hoping to get on my TBR, but as usual, I will be using my TBR machine website that spits out random reading prompts to pick the books on my TBR. And I will also be doing the thing where I try to make a realistic reading plan. So I'm going to pick one physical book and one audiobook for each week of the month. So we'll have 4 weeks that we need to fill in the month of March. So let's pick the first prompt. Read a book released 10 or more years ago. The top book on my pile is The Broken Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin, and I think 2010. That is more than 10 years ago. So I'm going to be reading The Broken Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin, I guess, in the first week. You know, I'm actually currently, as I film this, just reading the first book, and I am quite liking it, but I might actually put this in the second week just to give myself a little bit more of a break, because I don't like to binge series in one go. I like to spread them out a little bit, otherwise I feel like it all gets a bit too muddy in my head. So this is about this young girl whose grandfather is like the ruler of the 100,000 kingdoms, and their whole family line has been given this power by the sky god. The sky god was one of 3, however, he killed off one of the gods, and then the third god, he enslaved them and all of their children. So basically this god and all their children have to do whatever this ruling family commands them to do. And this young girl had been raised kind of away from the palace and thought that she was going to live a whole separate life, but when her mother dies, she gets brought back to the palace and told by her grandfather that she's now the heir, and she gets stuck in a bit of a battle over that position, like a political battle of the minds. But the slave gods also kind of seem to have some kind of scheme to win their freedom that she's a part of. I don't know what's going to happen in the second book because I haven't finished the first one, but I guess we'll see. Okay, then let's pick the second prompt. Read a book written by an author from a different country than you. You know, the top 2 books on the pile I have are both by New Zealand authors, so they don't fit. However, the next book that I wanted to try and fit on the TBR is Provenance by Anne Leckie. So Anne Leckie is American, I'm pretty sure. I mean, really the whole point of this prompt is meant to be about diversity, but for me, America fits, so we're going to use it. This is actually an ARC that I found in a little free library. I think it's an ARC. Is it not? I always thought it was. But now that I look at it, oh, it does say not for sale. This is an uncorrected bound proof. So this is a spin-off from the, what is the series called? Imperial Raj trilogy that I read recently and really loved. So in that, we are following the Justice of Torrin, who's like an AI spaceship that also inhabits the bodies of a whole bunch of humans. And in the first book, we're kind of getting their experience with colonizing a particular planet, because they're part of this big empire that's colonizing the universe. And the story kind of starts with a particular colonization of a planet that's going really badly, and then also 2,000 years in the future, where the Justice of Torrin is now just a single body, and they're trying to get revenge for whatever happened 2,000 years ago, which we kind of learn about as we go. So in that world, there are also these aliens that the Empire has come up against that are just like unbeatable, so overpowered that the Empire has to give up on their colonization pretty much. And I believe that we're going to get some of those aliens in this spin-off, which would be amazing because they were my most favorite characters of the whole series. So looking forward to this. And I guess we'll put it in the first week for March. Okay, then we are up to the third prompt. I got read a poetry book. So what I do have that I could read is, it's kind of behind you and I can't quite reach it, but I kind of don't need to because it's just on my Kindle. So I have The Honey Month by Amal El-Mutar. This was on my February TBR, but I kind of ended up putting it down. Maybe I'll make another go of it in March. The idea with this is that Amal El-Mutar, her friend, gave her this thing of like different little honey samples, one for each day of February, and then for each day she tasted the honey and wrote a little description of it, and then like a poem or a short story based on that honey. I was trying to read one every day in February and I just couldn't do it. And I was thinking maybe it just doesn't work for me to read one every day. But you know, maybe it was also life stuff that was going on in February. I'm going to try again in March. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try again with just reading it every morning. Honestly, each one is only like a minute or two, so it's totally doable to just read it when I wake up. Maybe I just need to make myself read it before I do anything else on my phone. Maybe we'll try that, I guess. So then, the next prompt is read a book written for children. Children. What is our definition of children here? One of the books that I have that I would like to try and fit on my TBR is Migration by Steph Mataku. So this is a New Zealand Maori author, and it's kind of like a dystopian, YA dystopian type story where this young girl goes to study as a military fighter. I've seen it compared to Divergent, Maze Runner, The Hunger Games, like all those big YA dystopians. And I have liked almost everything I've read by Steph Mataku, but she normally writes kind of for a younger audience. This is YA, which isn't technically children, but you know what? I'm going to count it. So I'll put this in the third week of March. I am, as usual, filling up all my physical slots first, and I really need to try and think of some audiobooks. But anyway, let's do the next prompt. Read your most recent book purchase. So my most recent book purchase in terms of books I have in my hands were actually books that I've already read. So I managed to get a couple of Robin Hobb books, hiding back here. I managed to get a Joe Abercrombie book. However, I did actually just yesterday order a book from like an online New Zealand bookseller of secondhand books, and on my little stack here, I have the first book in the series. So the book I ordered is the second book in this duology. I haven't read this one yet, but like this is a duology by a New Zealand author. You don't see it around much, so the idea of getting it secondhand was very exciting. I actually got this first one secondhand as well. So this is A Declaration of the Rights of Magicians by H.G. Parry. And the idea of this book is that only noble people are allowed to use their magic, and any of the commoners, if they get caught doing magic, basically get enslaved. And there was a scene in here that described that process, and it was absolutely awful. But we're also following, like, I think we're going to get the experiences of some young people who have been enslaved, but also there are these really passionate nobles who really want to like fix the law because they don't think it's fair or reasonable. And I really loved the scene. So I've tried the first chapter of this, or the first couple of chapters. I think the chapters weren't very clear, but I've tried a little bit of this, and I just loved the passion for these young people hoping to change the law and make the world a better place. But also, like, that scene of that child being enslaved was so brutal. So I'm super excited to read this. And so even though this isn't my most recent purchase, my most recent purchase is the sequel to this. So I have to read this before I can read that. So we'll put this on the TBR. So this will be in the fourth week, I guess. And now I've filled all my physical book slots, so it's only audiobooks from here. The next prompt is read a favorite book of a friend or family member. So what I'm going to go with for this is my read along, even though I'm doing a bad job of this read along, but my read along of the Rairia series. So this is a read along that Joshana is hosting, but she's reading the books in chronological order. I'm reading them in publication order because I'm a rebel, and so far I'm really enjoying it. Although this is another one where I'm filming this TBR a little bit early, so I haven't yet actually read the second book in the trilogy, but I'm gonna read the third book in the Rairia Chronicles. Like, I love the first book enough that I know I'm gonna continue this. So in this series we're following Royce and Hadrian, who are thieves, and so far what has happened in each book is that they take on some kind of thieving job that seems like it's just going to be a simple kind of job, and then it always kind of goes sideways and they end up pulled into a bunch of like the politics and the magic of the world. It's written in quite a like humorous kind of way, but I'm also really liking the way the world is kind of being slowly revealed, and we're like slowly learning more about that magic and politics and like the history of the world. So as I said, I haven't actually read the second book yet, which means it's in the last week of February. So I don't want to put this in the first week of March. I want to put it Does it go well with any of these other books? Let's put it in the second week of March, just because both those books are blue. That's a terrible reason, but let's do it anyway. The next prompt is going to be read a book that intimidates you. So I did actually get a book from the library the other day, or I think it came through in the library and I told it come back in March. Let me check that it's still coming. Yeah, it says available soon. So that is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. And the reason why this is intimidating for me is that this book is massively hyped on BookTube. And M.L. Wang's first book, The Sword of Kaigan, is also massively hyped. I read The Sword of Kaigan and I really loved the beginning and then hated the ending of it. So I want to read the second book. It sounds really interesting. We're following this woman who really wants to learn the magic of the world, but it's very rare for a woman to be allowed to even test into this magic. And then when she kind of gets a position, everyone's basically trying to sabotage her, and she's really like determined to prove her place as a woman. So I've heard great things about it, but I'm really scared because I didn't like The Sword of Kaigan. I'm really scared that I'm not going to like it, but I'm going to give it a go. It sounds interesting. So I guess since my library's giving it to me soon, let's put it in the first week of March. Okay, then the next prompt will be read a book that has been adapted into a movie or TV show. Do I have any of those on my TBR? If I don't, okay, I can see at least a couple on my TBR that I know have been. Let me see if I can get them on audiobook, ideally from the library. Do you know, the more I look at my TBR, the more options I see. I really would like to read The Double by Jose Saramago. I watched the movie that was based on this. It had Jake Gyllenhaal, and it's about this guy who like sees an actor in this TV show and is like, oh my god, that guy looks exactly like me. And then it gets like twisted and weird, and I really liked it, but I don't think I can get the audiobook. In fact, I don't even know if I can get the actual book easily. The problem is I also have some rereads that I would like to read. So All You Need Is Kill, which was made into Edge of Tomorrow, The Last Unicorn by Peter Beagle, or Fahrenheit 451. All of those I would like to reread, and all of those have been made into shows of some kind. Fahrenheit 451 was made into a show, right? There's been a movie and a TV film and a video game. I just don't know for any of these. Do I feel like listening to them via audiobook? Is there anything else on my TBR that could be an option? Not really. You know, there is an audiobook at my library for All You Need Is Kill, but they've actually renamed and rebranded it Edge of Tomorrow. And the little description of it basically says, first time on CD. This is not a CD, this is an audiobook on my phone in the Libby app. Do you know, if I can't read The Double, I actually think All You Need Is Kill is the story I'm the most interested in. So I'm going to borrow that and we will listen to that. So we'll put it in the third week of March. I think actually it might go well with Migration in terms of them both being a little bit military, a little bit dystopian. Okay, then let's pick the final prompt. I still have one more book that I would like to try and sneak onto this TBR, so let's see if I can do it. I got read a book by an author you haven't read anything from before. That does not fit the book I wanted to fit on here. Let's see what else I have on my TBR that might fit that. One that I want to read via audiobook. Okay, I was thinking so long about that one that my camera turned itself off. I got bored. What I'm going to go with is The Will of the Many by James Islington. I think that's how you pronounce it. So I haven't read anything by him before. And I think the idea of this one is, like, I've tried the first chapter, but I've kind of forgotten. But it's a world where I think like each person has some amount of magical will that they can basically give over to someone else. And so there's like these hierarchies of magic where, like, depending on how many people you have beneath the hierarchy in you, kind of determines your strength of will or your level of magic. And we're following this young boy who seems to be in hiding, and he is for some reason going to end up in this like magic school type setting. And I think he's trying to corrupt the system, change the system. I'm going to put this in the 4th week. Again, maybe it'll actually go quite well with A Declaration of the Rights of Magicians in terms of that also being a book about trying to change power structures. Maybe. Okay, so that's going to be my TBR for the month of March, as well as trying the honey month again. I did manage to get a lot of the books that I wanted to read on here, so that's a good sign. A lot of books on here that I am very excited for, so that's always a good sign. Let me know if you've read any of these, whether you think I'm going to like them, and let me know what your reading plans are for the month of March. Do subscribe if you'd like to see more of my bookish videos. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.